Good morning and welcome to Faith on the Ground, where we are shining a light on all that God is doing through real people and real ministry right now. I'm your host, Ian Velasquez. So glad to have you guys on this morning. And this morning, we have Sean Lowry. He is the pastor at Union Springs Baptist Church in Randolph. And Sean, thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. Sean, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Jemison and left there, went to college at Montevallo for a couple of years, and then spent 6 years in the Navy.
Oh, man. Hey, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you. And then came back and finished my degree there. And in the process of going in the Navy, whatever, I married my wife, Marchetta. We have two children, our son and his wife. And our granddaughter live in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Okay.
My daughter lives in Cross Plains, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And so, but we've been married, well, almost 41 years.
Come on.
And so we got to about just shy of 7 years ago, got called back here to pastor Union Springs. Been out of Tilton County for quite a number of years. I did youth ministry for 28 years prior to coming into the pastorate here.
Was that in Tennessee?
The last 18 years we were in Tennessee. We'd been all over. I served a church in New Orleans while I was in seminary. Was at Oxford, Alabama, and then moved to Tennessee and spent 18 years there.
Man, come on.
So it's been good. It's been good to be back home. Close to my dad and other family, and so it's been neat.
So while you were in Tennessee, did they try to convert you to a Vols fan?
Well, of course, but it didn't work.
It didn't work. You're an Alabama fan?
Nope.
Are you an Auburn fan? Let's go. All right, man. This is gonna be a good show. We're set. So going off of all of this, how did you just first feel called into ministry?
Well, when I moved back here, my children were young, and we moved back after I got out of the Navy, and really wanted to finish my degree. And my dream had always been, since I was a child, to teach and coach in high school.
Yeah. And
moved back, and shortly after we moved back, I received a call from Center Hill Baptist Church over in Jemison. And they, asked would I be interested in doing youth and music on a part-time basis. And my goal or my thought was it'd be a great place to serve. I needed, be involved in church, and while I was going to Montevallo, and I was working some odd jobs and stuff like that. Well, about a year into that, I took the youth group down to Montgomery for the Youth Evangelism Conference.
Oh, nice!
And the last day, because it was like a 2-day event, the last day, and this is my story that it just blows me away every time I think about it. Rick Caldwell was speaking. I don't remember a word he said because I just sensed God's Holy Spirit moving in my heart that I need to give my life to full-time, at least vocational ministry. That's everything. So that day I finally just came to the point, because I think he'd been working on me for quite a while before that. And just since that's what he wanted me to do. And so my prayer that day was, God, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it.
Come on.
From then on, it was pretty much just looking into and following his lead into ministry. And that's what led us. I was at Center Hill for about 4 years, and God led us to New Orleans to go to seminary and get my master's degree after I'd finished my bachelor's at Montevallo.
Okay.
And so we spent 3 years there. And so that's kind of how that all started. And that was, I guess officially the call came in 92.
Yeah.
And been doing it ever since in some way or shape or form.
And you said we talked before that, but you were in youth ministry for 28 years?
Man, I did a lot of combination positions because, a lot of churches don't have just strictly youth. So I did, I did youth and children, youth and music, youth and rec, but the focus had always been youth ministry.
Right. I feel like I've seen more youth pastors or like our jobs for youth pastors. It's like, all right, you're doing youth, but somehow music is somehow always a part of it. I don't know why that's a thing, but it's just like, hey, it'd be great if you could help us sing too.
And I think that's a lot of it. So many churches are not able to do like a full-time youth, full-time music, whatever. So you end up with those combination positions, which helps a lot from the church's standpoint, but also from the minister's standpoint.
Oh yeah, for sure.
To be able to do that. And
Come on. Well, man, it's so cool just how long you'd been doing that is really great. And so you get called into ministry, you're doing all these different things, but what is a moment that confirmed that, you know what, this is definitely what God wants me to be doing?
Probably there at Center Hill, just through the bunch of great folks that I'm still very close to.
Yeah.
And just their input into my life. And as a young minister trying to figure out how to do ministry and be effective and do what God wants me to do, they just gave me the ability to do things, to lead ministry, and were very supportive and loving. And like I said, so many of them are still dear friends. And so I think that just those first 3 or 4 years were key. And then the other thing was probably my move to seminary. My wife and I knew that that's where we would go. Well, of course, she was a little hesitant. She said, "I'm not a minister's wife." But anyway, God worked in her life too. But when I knew I felt I needed to go to seminary, my theological education. And so we began looking at different places and looked at Beeson Divinity School, and that just wasn't a good fit. And so all the Southern Baptist seminaries will put you up for a couple of days, let you sit in some classes, meet some folks, kind of learn about the college, the seminary. And so New Orleans happened to be about as close as any of them. So we thought we'll start with New Orleans. And I'll never forget, we drove on, my wife and I went down, drove on campus. And the moment we drove on campus, it's like God said, "This is it. This is the place I want you to be."
Yeah.
I didn't say anything to my wife. We spent a couple of days there and got to meet a lot of great folks there. And then as we're coming home, we talked about it, and she sensed the same thing, that this is where we needed to be. And so we packed up in summer of '95 and moved to New Orleans. And spent there. So we just knew and I guess that was confirmation for me of what God was doing and His call on my life. And
that's so cool.
Had a great experience there. So.
Oh yeah, like as soon as you stepped on campus, man, it's like, this is it.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of friends go down. They've done seminary at New Orleans as well. And so you go through that. Now you're a pastor at a church. Now you go through all of that. What would you say is just the heartbeat behind your current ministry and what you're doing?
Well, so much to me, relationship is so much about ministry.
Oh yeah.
Because if you don't have the relationship, then you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
And in the recent years, and you've probably heard many people, the idea of making disciples that make disciples.
You're right.
That has become probably my heart, is to see people that, Jesus told us, go and make disciples. Yeah. And so I think for many years, and I can speak for Southern Baptist because that's where I'm at and where I've been, we have not always done a good job of that. Yeah. We've done a good job of doing church, but sometimes we have not doing a good job of reproducing ourselves and our walk with God. And I think that's part of it. So seeing people get to that point, and that's part of that is the relationship of Christians doing life together, following Christ. Yeah. And getting people to the point where they're doing that is just kind of has become my heartbeat, wanting to see that happen. Of course, I love, serving. I love ministering to people in various contexts, but ultimately that's the bottom line of what we do.
Come on. No, that's so good. And I think that should always be at the forefront. I feel like is like building those relationships with people, because once you have that relationship, that's where you get to share the gospel. That's where you get to show them who Jesus is. And that's probably my favorite thing is like, I'm unnecessarily a people person. And my wife might hate that from me sometimes. But it's one of those things to where it's like, once you get to know them is where you can truly just you're right there in the struggle with them. They're not just by themselves, and you get to build that trust with them. But no, I love it. So real quick, we're going to take a break, and then we will be back with our Ministry in Motion segment, just all that is going on right now, what is excited about, and stuff like that. So we will be right here, right back right here after this.
Traditions come and go, but excellent service and compassionate care are benchmarks in any era. That's what Ellison Memorial Funeral Home is committed to providing you, whether through the pre-arrangement process or seeking services at your time of loss. Ellison Memorial offers a noticeable level of care and attention to detail. Others do not. So before making a decision based on yesterday's traditions, experience the Ellison difference when it comes to your loved one's final arrangements. You'll be glad you did. Call us today at 205-280-4600. Ellison Memorial Funeral Home, setting the new standard in local funeral service excellence. We are always here when you need us.
Underage drinking is deemed by many adults to be a rite of passage. Parents who host parties for youth may think they are being protective, but they are actually putting their youth at risk of physical and social consequences. Know the truth. Underage drinking and social hosting is a bad mix. For more information, contact Central Alabama Wellness, 205-651-0077, or visit centralalabamawellness.org.
Chilton Mobile Home Parts and Supply is your go-to destination for top quality mobile home parts and supplies in Clanton, Alabama. Conveniently located at 14023 County Road 29, just 3 miles east of Thorsby. We offer a diverse inventory, including underpinning, doors, windows, faucets, tubs, setup supplies, and more. Our commitment to quality ensures you'll find the best solutions for your mobile home needs. Upgrade your space with stylish doors and windows. Enhance functionality with top-notch faucets and tubs. All conveniently available in one place. Visit us today or call 205-646-1949. Transform your mobile home with Chilton, where quality meets convenience.
All right, we are back with Faith on the Ground with Pastor Sean Lowry. But we're in our next segment, just ministry in motion. So, Sean, what is something at your church and your ministry right now that you're just really excited about?
Well, I think when I came almost 7 years ago now, we had started planning and doing stuff, and then the pandemic hit. And kind of threw everything off. We were about eight months in, and so it's like, and now what do we do? And so trying to figure out how to do ministry through that, and then how to recover after that. But we've seen God doing some things in a discipleship ministry through just our ministry in general, our fellowship that has grown, especially in the last year or so.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting. We've seen some new people come into our church that got involved, and so it's really neat to see those kind of things work out.
Yeah.
Of course, we've got, we have our ongoing ministries and stuff where right now, one of the things we've, for the last, I don't know how many years they've been doing it, do a community community event, fellowship, outreach type. At the Mims Lake over at, he's Tack and Judy Mims are members of our church. And it actually started out as a family reunion years ago with the Hoppers. And then it became a church event. Then it became a whole community event.
Oh, that's awesome.
We typically have done that in the summer.
Yeah.
Which is middle of July, and it's outrageously hot. And so we've been talking about, our outreach team got together and we talked through possibilities. How do we need to do this? So we actually moved it to September.
Okay.
And so we're going to do it late September, so hopefully it'll be a little bit cooler. But we have, some of the Hoppers family, Glenn and Dawn particularly, they come from down South Alabama, and we roast a pig and, So
Man.
big time,
This sounds awesome.
barbecue stuff. And so y'all can
Text me.
watch for details. I'll
Text
keep
me.
up with you and let you. It's just a great time. We do some live music, just games and stuff. And so it's just a fun time for our community, but also we share the gospel, hopefully reach some folks that maybe are in our area that haven't heard the gospel or haven't responded to the gospel. So that's kind of the goal of the event.
Man.
And so that'll be in September. Of course, right now we're coming up in about a month. We'll do our Vacation Bible School, which is one that I always love. Vacation Bible School is just a fun time with the kids and able to reach and touch some families' lives and reach kids with the gospel. So it's always an exciting time.
Man, VBS is something I used to hate it. I used to not like it at all. But then I started just getting more involved with it, and these kids are something else. To see them just like they get it. Like once they understand the gospel, once they understand like what we're talking about, even though there's some weird guy up there dressed as like a clown or whatever, this is really cool. And they retain this stuff, and it's been cool to kind of see that happen.
And that's the exciting thing when you see a child get it, and then the ability because of that we make connections with families.
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
it's really exciting, and so it's one of those events that's a lot built up to get it ready and do it
right.
But it's worth every time, every moment, and every penny you spend on it. So.
Absolutely. Come on, man.
So we're looking forward to that.
And so going off of this, can you just share a recent God moment that you've just seen through your ministry?
Probably one of the ones I thought about when I talked to you earlier and you invited me here was a guy in our church. He, I guess it's been about a year now, a little over a year. His parents have been members of the church for a long time, and he had gotten away from church. He called me one day. He said, "Can I come talk to you?" I said, "Sure." And so we had met a time or two, but he came and we sat down at the church and talked, and he just poured out his heart that God had been working in his life, and he needed to come back and get more involved and be more committed, and he wanted to be baptized and walk with God. And so it's just been an exciting time to watch him over the last year or so grow and be obedient to Christ and do the things that God's called him to. And those are, you see those times when people's hearts are changed, that God's working in their lives, and it's just exciting, keeps you going.
I bet. It kind of gives you a breath of fresh air almost. You're just like, yes.
And because sometimes, we get from a pastor standpoint, I don't want to speak for every pastor, but I know that, you do get in those times where it just seems kind of dry. You keep doing what God's called you to do, but you're thinking, okay, God, and then you have one of these, and it's like, yes. Lord, yes, and he's working, and so it's really cool when those things happen.
Man, come on, that's so good.
It's been good to see that in Daniel's life.
I know that's exciting too.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, this might be the same thing as this, but have you seen God move in just an unexpected way lately?
Well, that's one because I had no clue because I just met him a few times.
Yeah.
But so that would be one. Other times, I'll just use a recent one. We have what we call the Annie Armstrong Easter offering for North American missions that we give, and it helps our missionary efforts both in Canada, United States, and Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I'm very passionate about missions and getting people involved in missions. And so we always set a goal for that. And this is one of those times, we're given, it's an extra offering above our normal tithes and offerings. And you start watching the numbers, and I try not to get too caught up in it, but you set goals for a reason and try to reach them. Well, we were a little bit shy the last week or so that we were going to be receiving the offering. And then all of a sudden, we hit our goal, and it's just when God, moves in the hearts of people and they give. And our church is very generous, especially in missions and stuff. So that was really cool to see that happen,
Come on.
And so, again, it just gets you excited, about what God's doing in the lives of our people.
And that stuff, I love how you said it's like you set a goal, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're anticipating it, you're praying for it, and it's just like, and especially when you're just shy of it, you're like, oh, come on. And when you get that, oh, come on, man, that's so good. And so we're going to move to our next segment. It's just being personal and real. Mm-hmm. And so what is a spiritual lesson that God has been teaching you here recently?
Probably one of the things that God has been just, I guess you could say, reaffirming or I don't know how you'd say it, re-emphasizing in my life is we're just being, when something's going on, when things are happening, you've got to do it now.
Right.
There's an urgency. When you look, whether it's in our country or in our world or in our own personal lives, our church, not to put things off.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to make a visit, sharing the gospel with somebody, ministering in some way.
Yeah.
Just to take advantage of those opportunities. And I know I'm guilty of, missing those. I don't recognize those opportunities a lot of times when God gives them to me. And so I get through it, past it, and I look back and think, man, I blew that one, but I think just to take advantage of those when God gives them. And so that's one of the things he's been kind of reaffirming in me is that, one of the things recently I was reading an article and talking about, oftentimes people ask you, pray for me. Okay,
cool.
And then you walk off.
Right,
and you're like,
right.
One of my former pastors used to do this, and it's just been a reminder. If somebody'd say, "Pray for me," and he'd stop right then and pray. It didn't matter where we were at, what was going on, he was going to stop and pray.
Wow.
And so just trying to do things like that, and be more proactive in those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. And you have to be pretty intentional to make that happen because, sometimes you're in the middle of Walmart and you're just like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. Or we get so hurried. We're jumping from one thing to the next, and I'll pray for you, rather than taking the time and saying, okay, let's do it now.
Man, I remember when I was younger, and I was a little bit younger. I guess teenage, a little bit younger than that. And we'd be in Walmart or something, and my dad, oh my gosh, and he's probably watching this too. We would sit there at Walmart, and he would somebody say, I just need you to pray for me. Well, he'd just start praying for him.
Yeah.
And of course, me being, I'm just like, oh my goodness, get me out. Why? Why are we doing this? But the older I've gotten and seen, I'm just like, man, that. I try to do that more now, because I know I'm gonna forget,
right?
And I'm just, that is me. That is my. I hate it, but it's one of those things where if I'm gonna pray, let's just do it now. And that's so good though. Yeah. And so I love this question. What keeps you encouraged on the hard days? I know you brought up sometimes we get in those funks and those crazy parts of our ministry, and so what just keeps you encouraged?
I think to me, one of the things that keeps me going is just to be able to be in God's Word and pray. Yeah, and I try to do that every morning, and nothing. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. But just knowing that God's promised His presence, He's promised His power in our lives, and so when those days get hard, just focusing on that kind of changes things. I came across, Kent Dodson, pastor over at Liberty Hill. Yeah. Recently, about a year ago, he encouraged me and some other good pastors that we meet on Thursday mornings, and he talked about the worship initiative that's online and the devotion they do, and I started doing that, and just taking some time to focus, to praise God through music. Here's another devotion from somebody. That's always helpful. Yes, when those kind of things, and I think God uses those to keep us focused on Him and not whatever else it may be. Right. And sometimes the difficult stuff we have to deal with. Oh, for sure. I know the worship initiative, somebody said, I think you can set it up, or I had it set up to where it texts you. Yeah. You get a text, and then it's different people leading. They'll do one song in that devotion, and then somebody lead a devotion based off of that song. And so it's really, really cool. It's about 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, no, I've loved it. Every day. It has been such a cool thing. Oh, it is. If you're listening to this, I'm serious. Check it out, Worship Initiative. It has been such a great, and like you said, it's uplifting. It's something, it's great, especially when you're dealing with the harder days, just to listen to that, and that helps out so much. And so, just moving from that, so we got some fun questions. I love to ask these. What is a hobby that you are just really into? Well, my wife and I both, we love gardening. Come on. And so places we've lived the last place we lived in Tennessee before we moved back here, we were in we had a little home in the country.
Yeah.
And the ground was very, very rocky. And so
gosh.
we had a hard time trying to do any gardening. Well, we moved back here and we get to garden at the place where I grew up. My sister lives there now, but my dad had gardened for years. So we started gardening there. And we just love doing it, and
that's cool.
It's a lot of work, but that's I tell people that's kind of my therapy. I get out there and I can do stuff, whether I'm plowing or hoeing or picking or whatever it may be. And so that's probably the biggest hobby right now for me. That of course, right now we're getting everything going and things are coming up. And trying to stay ahead of the weeds. But that's probably for me right now. Just the hobby I love doing. I just enjoy it.
No, that's great. And I think that's one of those, like my parents are big gardeners too. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, and they take my daughter out there.
Oh yeah,
and that's their favorite thing in the world is like, let me show you the flowers, the onions, all this random stuff that we're growing. But like, I think what's so cool, and I've seen this with like a lot of pastors, a lot of stuff that we deal with like is a lot of it's mental stuff. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to do something where you're working with your hands and you can like do the problem or do whatever that is therapy. And so I think that's one of those things to where you can just, man, I'm gonna put all the other craziness aside for a second and just work on something that I can control and do that. And so, man, I love that. That's so cool. And you said you've been doing this just pretty much. You set up in Tennessee and all this stuff.
We've when I grew up, my dad and mom bought a home with a little less than 10 acres, and even when I was a teenager, we would grow enough to. I think Dad's goal was, he'd always make enough money, sell enough to make enough money to pay for his fuel, his fertilizer and seed, and then we'd give everything else away, what we didn't keep.
That's awesome.
And so we just, I grew up doing that, and I love doing it, and so that's kind of where it all started.
That's
and so
pretty cool.
Just, after we moved back here and had a space, a plot of land already had been farmed or been in the garden, so it was just a great place to do it.
So do you just do like vegetables, or is it just like...
I'm do the vegetables. And my wife at the house, she does the flowers and stuff. I don't.
I'm not doing the flowers.
I don't know anything about flowers. She can do it and does it well, but we do a lot of different vegetables and stuff.
That's so
I
cool.
love doing that.
Okay. Well, I love that one. Okay. So next question: if you could sit down with any biblical figure besides Jesus, who would it be and why?
My wife and I talked about that. She asked me last night because she had seen the list of questions that you gave me to look at. And for me, it's probably Elijah.
Yeah.
I identify a lot with Elijah. Elijah was one of those, and not that I'm like him necessarily in every way, but just a great man of God. He was a little different, but, after one of his greatest victories that God gave him. Yeah. He turned around and, went off and said, okay, God, I'm done. Just go ahead and take me. And looking at that, we see that he was probably struggling with depression. And it's easy to, when you have those big, exciting things that happen and the letdown, and then something negative happens, and it's easy to fall back and deal. We get into this depression type, and you may not be clinically depressed or anything, but just this down time, this low time. Yeah, and that's something I guess if you look at the psychological terms, melancholy. Yeah. And that's if you all those personality tests and stuff, that's where I always fall out. Man, so just have a tendency to do that, and so just looking at what he did and what happened with him, and then how God brought him out of it, which has always been amazing. Because when he went out into the wilderness and prayed and said, God, I'm the only one left. I quit, basically. God fed him. He slept, took a nap. Yep. God fed him again. He slept some more. And it reiterates to me the importance of being able to have some downtime. Yeah. To be able to get past it. And that's part of even the gardening part of that. For me, like that is something that I can get away from in the middle of all the ministry stuff. And even if it's an hour or two, out by myself or with my wife or some of my family, working on things like that. And it just changes my attitude. But I identify with Elijah a lot in that.
Man. No, I love that. I was going to say, I think that's such a great example for sure, because I mean, I love how you say he was just melancholy.
Yeah.
And just Dylan's just like, all right, just take me. All right,
Yeah.
nah, come take a nap. Here's some
Yes,
food.
that's right.
All right. No, I love that. And I think that's Elijah has been like one of the top ones, I think, for
Really?
either that or just calling down fire and all this other
Yeah,
stuff too.
yeah.
It's a great one. And so that's been a really, I love Elijah. And so the last one for this segment, what is just a go-to, just, I'm a big worship guy, just a worship song that you really love?
Well, that's another one my wife and I talked about, and there's so many of them. I mean, it's
yeah.
just God has just blessed people with, and I don't want to say I'm envious, but sometimes I probably am. Wish I could write things like that. But
yeah.
probably one of the ones that I always fall back to is "The Power of the Cross" by Keith and Kristen Getty.
Okay, yeah.
It's just an amazing song, and God has impressed on me over the years that we can't get over the cross. We can't ever let that fall away from being for the forefront.
Yeah.
Because that's what has changed us. That's what God did. Jesus did to change us.
Absolutely.
Provide us that forgiveness. And there's one phrase I was thinking about this morning out of that song, and I may not quote it exactly right, but it's basically to see my name in the wounds.
Ooh.
It's just powerful lyrics,
Yeah.
and just helps me to focus on, okay, God, this is what it's about. Is me sharing with others what you've already done with me.
Yeah.
And it all centers around the cross.
That's so good. Oh man, and the Gettys are just oh my gosh, they have so
Unbelievably
much
gifted.
Stuff. And I remember too. It wasn't. This show my age, I guess, but just like I never really heard of the Gettys until like maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And but that's one of those things to where it's just like I started finding more songs they're doing and all this, and oh my goodness, it's so good.
Yeah.
Facebook, I guess it heard me at one point just talking about them, and now all that does is just send me reels of the Gettys. I'm just like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But no, that is so good. But real quick, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we will be right back with our last segment. Just looking ahead, looking at ministry, just in the future, and just all that's going on with Pastor Sean. But we will be right back here after this.
Need reliable towing or diesel repair? MEMS Wrecker and Heavy Duty Diesel Repair has you covered. We specialize in light and heavy duty towing and recovery with the latest equipment for any job, from campers and tractor trailers to winch box recoveries, and the only local-based rotator in the county. We do it all. Our diesel repair services include computer diagnostics, engine rebuilds, transmission and clutch work, and general maintenance. Trust MEMS Wrecker and Heavy Duty Diesel Repair for top-notch service. Call us at 205-217-1984. Some family traditions begin with an ending. Lasting family legacies are established at Martin Funeral Home, where for over 100 years, we have served the families in our community. Bobby, Donnie, Norma, and our family at Martin Funeral Home would like to express our sincere gratitude for allowing us to serve your family. Every life story deserves the perfect setting. We are here to make that happen for you and your loved one. We offer traditional funeral home services, and we are now excited to be the home of the first crematory in Clanton, Alabama. Our goal is to serve our families no matter what their needs are. Martin Funeral Home, serving Chilton County since 1921. Please give us a call at 205-755-3550.
All right, we are back with Faith on the Ground, and we are just looking ahead at just in ministry for Sean, everything that he's got going on. But Sean, what are you just currently praying for in your ministry?
I think for us is just to continue to try to reach our community. Our community, we're out in the country. There, it's sometimes hard. I was just talking to one of our guys a few weeks ago. We do things called prayer walking. Well, you can't prayer walk in Union Springs community. It's just everything's spaced out too far. Just trying to build those relationships with the people in the community. We've had some new folks move into our community, and just trying to reach them, touch them, and get them involved in ministry.
Right.
And so my prayer is just that we continue to do that. I believe God's planted us there to reach that community ultimately.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously that expands to the world, but we have to start at home.
Right.
And so that's kind of my prayer is that we continue to do that and get better at building those relationships, meeting people, especially as we have people moving in and out and things like that.
Man, come on. And I think that's so cool that you kind of have your finger on the pulse of that community of what's kind of going on, like people moving in, going on ahead and reaching out to them. I love you said it'd be more than the prayer walk. It'd be like a marathon.
It's prayer drive. We actually, and I've actually done some of that. We have had several people in our church do that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Because it's just it's too far to walk between homes and whatever.
Right.
So we a lot of times we'll just drive and
oh, that's cool.
Pray. Or we started several years ago after the pandemic and everything, just trying to connect with people. And when that's what we started doing, years ago, you'd go door to door in evangelism.
Yeah.
And we decided we're going to start and just try to touch the people in our community just by praying for them.
Man.
And so we'd go door to door and say, hey, we're from Union Springs. We just want to pray for you. How can we pray for you? And people would respond, and we'd pray with them there on the doorstep. And just to keep that connection. And again, it's about relationships and getting to know them and where they're at. And so that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Come on. I love that, man. And so as well as that, what's just a dream that you have for just this next season of ministry? Well,
it's funny you asked that one because Friday night we went out with some friends that had quite a few from couples from our church, and we had somebody that just recently retired, and you were talking about getting together and fellowshipping together, and they said, well, who's the next one that's going to retire and to go have a get together. And I raised my hand and they said, no, you can't do that. And it was a joke, but it's one of those that we talked about it, that, oftentimes we get in our churches, we come and we do ministry together and all that.
Yeah.
But there's sometimes an element of fellowship that we miss. We don't do enough of it, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And so trying to build ways that we can get together in small groups or either as a whole church or just doing different type of things, and that's one of the reasons we do that big community event.
Right.
Is just to get people together. And I think there's just something about when you think about relationships over the table or around the table, there's just something special about that.
Oh, for sure.
So, I continue to think and try to think of ways and ask God to show me ways that we can do things to continue to build those relationships and make them stronger.
Yeah.
And it's just so special, when you've got groups of people like that can get together, go out to eat, or come to somebody's home just to have some fun, just to relax together and share a meal together.
Man, that's so good. And I am a huge advocate for that. I probably need to slide away from the table more, but it's one of those.
Me both.
It's one of those. It's just man, it's so good just to sit down over just a meal or whatever and just talk about hey, what's your life been like this week? What's been your and I think that's so good.
And see, I think doing that, that's back to the discipleship. That's part of that discipleship is just doing life together. What's going on with you? How's things? Whatever it may be, and somebody's struggling. Well, let's pray about it. How can we help? How can we minister with each other? That, all of that ties together so closely. And so that's my prayer, is that we just continue to do that.
Come on.
Both at Union Springs and throughout the county and
absolutely
and beyond.
Come on, man. And so going off from that, what is something that you would tell yourself first starting out in ministry?
Probably, and it ties to that, is to realize early on in my ministry, well, let's put it this way. Ministry is great, but ministry, we fill our calendars up with ministry stuff.
Yeah.
And so for me, taking time and realizing that, I can do stuff in ministry, with a church, with association, whatever, and I can fill up my calendar and do all that. But looking back, drawing back away from those kind of things, and not to say that we don't do them, but just to refocus, particularly with my family. My kids are grown now, but when they were younger, I tried to balance that ministry and family thing, but I'm not sure that I did the greatest job.
Yeah.
And so just to be able to balance our schedules and things that are going on, and I think that's something that we struggle with in the ministry, because there's a lot of, I guess, people look and say, well, we need this or we need that.
Yeah.
And that's important. I'm not saying we downplay that. I'm just saying you just have to balance that.
And that takes a lot to do that.
It does. It's a challenge.
And that's one of those things to where it's like, you kind of have to learn how to say no.
Yeah. And I'm not good at that.
And I'm not either. That's one of those things. That's what I have. It's a constant thing. And, but no, I love that. That's, I always like to ask that question just for anyone that's like thought about that call to ministry or anything, or is first starting out as well. Because man, you can burn yourself out.
And it doesn't take long. It's easy to do.
But no, thank you so much for that one. And so the last thing, how can just us, the community, just be praying for you personally and for your ministry?
I think one of the things that I think we all struggle with it as followers of Christ, and I'll use a biblical example that I always look back to, is absolute obedience. Joshua, he took over after Moses, which I'm thinking, man, I got to follow that, But, God used him in a great way as he walked and helped with Moses, and Moses trained him. We see that Moses, gives him that from God, that commission to enter the ministry to take the people into the promised land. They get into the promised land, and Joshua's doing exactly what God's told him. I mean, even just the story of the Battle of Jericho. He just did exactly what God said. Well, when they took over and went in the promised land, we know that in the book of Joshua, there were at least 31 cities recorded, walled, fortified cities, that the people were able to take because God had led them to that, and God had provided and said, they're yours. I've promised this land to you. One time was a failure, and it's because one man, not Joshua, but one man in the army of Israel, when they first attacked Ai, and he didn't do exactly what God told him to do.
Yep.
And because of that, it affected the whole country, the whole nation of Israel.
Yeah.
And they had to deal with that. But Joshua, throughout the whole, his whole leadership with Israel, he was absolutely obedient to what God said. And even to the point that his challenge to the people when he was old, he was fixing to die, he was at the end of his ministry, in Joshua 24:15 is where he said, choose today who you'll serve. And we know he chose to serve God. And did it with absolute obedience. And that's so good. That's my prayer for my life, for our ministry at church, that we are absolutely faithful and obedient to God's call on our life to reach people around us.
Absolutely.
We talk about reaching the world.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times we look and say, well, I'll never get to reach. Well, you can reach your little corner of the world. God's influence where you're at, that's what he wants to start with.
That's so good.
And we just need to be obedient to that.
Absolutely.
Faithful.
Come on, man. Well, definitely praying for that, dude. Oh man, that's so good. But I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show this morning. It's great to just hear all the great things that's going on.
Thank you. I appreciate
with you and
you
at your
inviting me.
church. And so, but like I said, thank you so much. But we want to thank you guys for tuning in this morning to Faith on the Ground. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, 10:30. You can catch it on Facebook, YouTube, or on the Piper Peach app as well. So once again, thank you guys, and we will see you guys next week.